Hi, Mike G here with ACM 360 Pro. Today I want to share with you the foundation of the ACM system and what fundamental movement patterns really are and how the ACM really focuses on those fundamental movement patterns and helps you understand where the greatest dysfunctions may be in your clients. So to understand this to a better degree, we have to start thinking about when we're born. Little babies are born with all the mobility they ever needed. Babies don't need to stretch, right? They can put their foot in their mouth. What the baby doesn't have at that point in time is a way to control or stabilize any of that mobility, so they just flop around. That's why you have to hold them. Over about 3 or 4 years, they start learning how to control all that movement, and they're developing stability around all that great movement. So by the time they're 4 or 5, they've established a great functional base. They have great mobility, and they've got great stability and control of all that movement. Then over the years, we have injuries, poor habits, bad postures. Those are all the things that start leading to dysfunctions. And unfortunately, we get excited to go to the gym or start working out, or maybe we have an injury and we go through rehab. And the problem is we have some underlying conditions that have not been addressed. And that's what's the beauty of the ACM system, is you'll learn how to identify those underlying conditions before we start doing any big time movements. So when we have to think about, when we look at the skeleton, and this is my best version of the skeleton I can draw, we have to start thinking about the joint by joint approach. And what I mean by that is all joints are designed for movement. That's what a joint's designed to do, or that's what the definition of a joint is. But if that were the case, we wouldn't be here right now because we'd be flopping around the ground. We have to have some control of that movement. So that means that some joints are responsible for stabilizing while other joints move us. And that's really what I want to share with you here, and this is really the foundation of what the ACM system and assessment program is. When we think about the body's joints and segments, we'll start at the foot. The foot joint is designed for stability, a big S. Stability, the arch of our foot is what controls that stability. The segments of our feet are controlling us as we hit the ground. Think of a collapsing arch or flat foot on somebody. It's a sign of a lack of stability in the foot. Moving up, the ankle joint is designed for mobility or movement. When we squat, lunge, walk, run, the ankle joint is going through quite a bit of range of motion. The knee joint, although we do bend and move the knee joint has a lot of restraints in rotation, doesn't like to rotate. And the knee joint is really just a shock absorber. Think about walking up a flight of stairs. The knee bends a little bit, but what it's really doing is decelerating our movement in that flexion. The hip socket, the big one, is designed for mobility. And that's a 360-degree range of motion joint that most people have some restrictions in, and that's what we'll look at later. The low back is designed to stabilize. If you think about this, and if you look at a skeleton or this version, we've got this entire upper body mass balancing on a little stick, 5 vertebrae on the pelvis. And so whatever we do with our upper body, any position we get into, things that we carry and lift, is all transmitted through those 5 little vertebrae. That's a big area for stability. And if you think about what the core is really just the connection of the upper body on the lower body. It's what stabilizes the movement, right? Moving up, if we talk about the rib cage or the thoracic area, the cage insinuates that it's a rigid structure, but it's not. It's actually very flexible and it's intended to move. So the rib cage or thoracic area is designed for mobility. In fact, we get a lot of mobility out of the thoracic area, more so than in the lumbar spine. The lower portion of our neck, C3 through C8, is designed for stability. It's balancing a 10-pound ball on a little stick. The upper portion of our neck, C1 and C2, is really designed for more mobility. That's the atlas and axis. That's where our neck rotates from. But I did that very quickly just to show you that there's a pattern. Mobility, stability, and so forth down. Well, the ACM system of functional movement or fundamental movement is looking at these movement patterns and looking at specifically how well does the ankle move, how well does the hip move, how well does the thoracic back move. If you've got restrictions, let's say someone can't bend over and touch their toes, they've got a restriction in their hip flexion mobility, but guess what? They still bend over to pick things up, they still bend over to tie their shoes, etc. The problem is they're not moving from their hip the way they're intended, which means that is going to start placing stress on the joint above and below, the knee joint, the low back, on areas that are designed for stability, not mobility. And this is why in medicine we start seeing very arthritic conditions to the knees, the low back, the lower portion of our neck, because those joints that are designed for stability are moving too much. And that's really what arthritis is. Arthritis is a defense mechanism in the body to create stability in an area that doesn't have it. And so the ACM system is really looking at movement patterns through all these segments and this combination of the 6 patterns that we have and the 3 ancillary ones. Understanding how the body is intended to work, having an effective assessment tool like the ACM system is going to unlock those deepest dysfunctions in your clients, and it'll start showing you a way to correct those so that your clients will thrive and really get the results that they're looking for.